Hi, Dr. Dashore. How are you?
Good. How are you, Andrew? Good to see you.
Welcome. Just introduced you and Katina both. Thrilled to have you online with us, and even more thrilled that you'll be visiting soon for the on-site event. And really looking forward to this 20, 30-minute presentation followed by the question and answers.
Likewise.
Would you like to introduce yourself? And I'll also check on Katina to make sure she's joining us.
Okay, great. So I'll get us started. Hi, everybody. I'm so glad you could join us today. I'm Dr. Jodie Dashore from New Jersey. Many of you might know that I'm an ILATS-trained clinician, and my practice is a dedicated, integrative, and holistic medicine practice for chronic illness. In New Jersey, I think I wanted to mention that as well. I myself am a chronic Lyme disease survivor, and I wanted to share a little bit about about my journey. I passed Lyme and several co-infections in utero to my only child, and unfortunately, we both ended up with chronic neurological disseminated Lyme disease with multiple co-infections. We also ended up with exposure to mold. We ended up with biotoxin illness, with MTHFR methylation problems. We pretty much had every genetic mutation that could cause trouble, with recovery and detoxification. And we just won the genetic roulette, I guess. But, so I've lived through what many of you are going through, and I can definitely relate to the individual dynamic, to the family dynamic of this illness. Now, as a physician, I had the good fortune of having the resources, and the background to be able to study and research and navigate through this very complex quagmire of infections and the damage it causes to the body. I hope most of you are aware that Lyme disease is not just an infection, right? It comes with co-infections, then there are opportunistic infections that develop on top of that. And all of them cause internal physiological damage to our body, to our organs, and the biochemical changes are what we see in the labs. So just killing the infections is not really going to help us heal. I see many patients that come to me and they say, what, Dr. Dashore, we've done everything. It's been years and years and we're still not getting better. And that's one of the problems, is that repair and restore has to be predominantly dealt with. It is very important to me to be able to help people going through this very complex and often unforgiving illness. I get invited to lecture and train physicians pretty much all over the world. It's a worldwide epidemic. I shall be going to, in fact, I was in London in February in the UK speaking. And then we had a webinar with London in March as well, as the awareness increases. I'm going to Lithuania in September to speak at the medical college there, it's actually at the medical school is where I've been invited to speak about chronic Lyme disease, because and autism and pandas and PANS and mold. They're not even aware of mold up in Europe and Eastern Europe as well. But it was interesting to me that how much of an epidemic Lyme disease is in Western and Eastern Europe. I've been asked to come and speak about alternative medicine, alternative approaches, because what I've been told by the director of the Lithuanian Medical Association is that conventional approaches are not working, and many people, especially children, are really suffering. So I hope to be able to, contribute. Oh, there's Katina. Hello, Katina.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning, Katina.
Good morning. So happy to be here.
So yeah, Absolutely, yes. It's very exciting. I just started off, telling people about what I do and about why I do what I do. Travel away from home, leaving my child and my husband. To manage things at home while we travel the world, trying to spread awareness and helping people and training practitioners, because Lyme disease is a worldwide epidemic, and the awareness is increasing that conventional approaches are very important, but that is, often not the only approach that is required. There needs to be a much broader spectrum perspective when it comes to healing from tick-borne infections. Actually, I'm very excited about the upcoming retreat at the amazingly beautiful, serene, and healing surroundings of the Art of Living Center in Boone. I shall be teaching and I shall be sharing my knowledge. I shall also be helping with the healing of a few of you. We shall learn about the several reasons why some people don't get better in spite of years of treatment. And I shall be talking not only about tick-borne infections, I shall be addressing mold and biotoxin illness. I shall be, I have presented at the International Mold and Biotoxin Illness Conferences. I shall be presenting at the next one as well. In fact, my little guy, my son, has also been invited to present at the next Mold and Biotoxin Conference. What's interesting is I see many children with autism spectrum disorders that have underlying tick-borne infections, that have underlying brain inflammation and autoimmune encephalopathy, PANS kind of issues. So I would like to be at the retreat. I will be talking about this as well, because in my practice and even in life, I've generally found that almost everybody, and I think it would be safe to say that everybody knows somebody who has a child with autism. It's an unfortunate fact of our times, and the research that I've been doing, the research that I have been presenting for the last couple of years at Autism One International and as well as other international autism conferences, the feedback I've received is that it has been life-changing for many families. So I would definitely like to touch upon that. I truly hope you can join us at this rare event where myself and the amazing healer, I have to say this, Katina, Makris, you're absolutely fabulous. I think, it'll be great to have you. It'll be great to join forces with you to be able to help so many people. And you know what, before I hand the floor over to Katina, Katina, you have such a beautiful, radiant smile. I'm so happy to see you.
Oh, Jodie, you're so special. She's so talented, everyone. This weekend's going to be dynamite.
So Katina, we introduced briefly at the beginning, and we talked, you've published 2 books. You have the first one, Out of the Woods, and then your new breakthrough book, as well as the radio show that you hosted. So one offline question that we got that maybe you can both speak to is, what have you seen as kind of the #1 thing that makes a difference in approaching Lyme disease from a natural perspective?
Oh, okay. Well, thank you, first of all, for the introduction. And yes, my 2 wonderful books brought me out of small town New England and private practice of many, many years into what I call the Lyme trenches. I've been all around the country. I have been up to Canada, over to France. I have given 170 presentations in 5 years' time and interfaced with thousands of people at conferences, at rallies, at support groups, at all kinds of places. And as Dr. Dashore said, the suffering is absolutely profound. 50 million Americans in the United States diagnosed with autoimmune illnesses, 250 million worldwide. And Dr. Dashore and I know there is a very strong interplay with tick-borne organisms as well as all of the biotoxins, et cetera. So with that kind of knowledge in mind, and having gone through the whole experience myself of being misdiagnosed with autoimmune diseases for 5 years before we found the underlying tick-borne infections, what I feel is very critical in recovery, and my story does not have to be a unique story, but it is a kind of poster child story for natural medicine, because we never used an antibiotic on me, even with advanced neurological Lyme disease. And I have recovered 100% plus. And I think the most essential elements are what these 4 ingredients, and we're going to discuss this in depth at the retreat, is working initially with those big organs of detoxification. Our liver, our kidney, our spleen, our natural organs that help our body cleanse, and all the endotoxins and the ammonia that the organisms release, plus, as Dr. Dashore is going to teach us, about all of the environmental toxins and food-related toxins, molds, etc. We have to cleanse the system, because this is bogging you down, and your immune system is already fighting with these other elements. So opening up detox is essential. Then I find, and I work with this continuously in my practice, I don't even go near killing off organisms. So we look at where are the damages that have been created by this rampant infection. Because when you think about it, these organisms have been injected directly into your bloodstream via the bite of the tick or another vector. So the first line of immunity didn't get to respond. So here we are with a bloodborne infection that's now moving its way into organs and glands and tissues, spinal fluid, and they feast on fatty acids and other amino acids of our body. So there's a lot of damages that get induced, especially with the endocrine system, the immune system, all of the, depending where it hits. So we have to rebuild. This is essential. And this is where Dr. Dashore and I dovetail so beautifully, because with our backgrounds in natural medicine, we have many, many tools to help rebuild these various parts of the body. The body is amazingly resilient and makes new cells every single day. So if we can nourish properly with our herbals, with our homeopathics, with our dietary changes, we get our systems stronger. I like to think of it as the body is kind of like an ecosystem, a kind of a terrarium, with our skin being the outer layer. And inside we have this fertile ground and a habitat. So we need to work within. So getting our systems rebuilt, renourished, strongly functioning again is critical. Critical. This is where most cases do not progress. And then, of course, killing off the organisms. And we have different choices for that. We've got the antibiotic therapy, we've got herbal therapies, we've got homeopathic nosodes, we've got energy medicine such as rife and other things. And not to be neglected, which we'll touch upon in a little bit as the webinar continues, is the power of our mind, because the mind, body, spirit connection is very, very powerful. We were blessed with minds, all of us, and a very essential piece of this journey is using your mind wisely. And I was blessed to become a certified spiritual intuitive healer. And for me to be able to share my skills and teach people how to activate the mind-body pathway is absolutely breakthrough. And Dr. Dashore and I agree on this exponentially. So I hope I answered your question, but there's a few elements in there. It's not just one thing, it's this kind of trifecta.
Good. And these follow-up questions. Was there certain points where you did the herbs and the different approaches to healing on the body level, and you realized that the mind was so important. What was that turning point for you to start looking at the role the mind plays in healing in this context?
A very, very good question and very appropriate. For people who have read my story in Out of the Woods or have visited with me at a conference and have heard me speak, know that I was decimated. I was one of those very tragic cases that got completely decimated so that multiple systems of my body were ravaged. I was bedridden for 3 years. I was in a wheelchair. It had infiltrated my nervous system and brain. I had early onset dementia. I had foot drop, palsy, stutters. I had profound chronic fatigue. I couldn't shower without help. I couldn't cut my food. I had to be hand fed at one point. And, I was called critical. And there was a day, it was 5 years in to my journey, where I had been in bed and on the sofa for many years. And mind you, I'd lost so much in my life. I'd lost my beautiful career as a homeopath. I had lost my income, my savings, my marriage had splintered and fractured. I lost my home because I had to pay my bills. Talk about dark night of the soul, right? And my spirit broke. And it's hard to imagine because I'm so vivacious and I'm so filled with passion for the people that know me. It's hard to imagine me with a broken spirit, but I was, Andrew. I couldn't even imagine that I would ever dance again, that I could ever go out in the evening to a dinner or a party. And I had this very, really fundamental day where I was, I think, dying because my heart was starting to not beat properly and I started to slip away from my body. And I could feel myself leaving. But my father had been such a strong supporter in my life, and he had said to me, Katina, I don't care what the diagnosis is. I don't care what the doctors say. It's very negative. How many times did they tell me I would die of embolisms, etc.? He says, you have to hold on and you have to use the power of your mind. And here I was floating out of my body, Andrew, on the cusp here of what I felt was death. And a messaging came through my mind. And the messaging was, if you can tune into your intuition and you can listen within, you will be guided and you will find your way out of this illness. This has been a test. You have been challenged to master the trickery of the mind and the demons of emotions. And Katina, you have mastered the test, but you must follow your intuition and you will be guided. And sure enough, I dozed off, and when I woke up, I had this instinct to go find this book on homeopathic medicine from India that had all of the great neurological remedies. And I went creeping and crawling across the room because I was bedridden and got to this book. And when I opened the book, thinking I'm looking for a neurological remedy to help me for the foot drop and the tremors, the inscription page is what I saw. And the inscription said, from one homeopath to another, may your life be filled with blue skies, health, and happiness. And it was signed from a colleague of mine who I hadn't seen in a few years. And I thought, oh my gosh, Dr. Jeff, he'll know what to do with me. So Dr. Jeff was the one that diagnosed me properly with Igenix Labs. And during this time frame, as I said, listen to your intuition, a beautiful spiritual healer came into my life, Dr. Meredith Young Sowers. She runs the Still Point School. She's been around for over 30 years. And I ended up at a retreat weekend with her. And she said to me, Katina, she said, you're gifted with massive amounts of perception and intuition, and you must be trained. I must teach you how to use the mind-body pathway. So it became so profound for me, Andrew. I turned off the computer. I got away from the whole Lyme disease talk, and I journeyed within, and I worked on the inside. And between the help of my spiritual healer and then all my personal work, it's a deep journey within Lyme disease. It asks us to touch our soul, and it asks us to think about all those big questions in life, like who am I and why am I here and what's my life purpose and what's my contribution, and who is that creative being in me, and is my life work really my calling? And so I spent a lot of time with meditation and reflection and finding beauty and working with prayer and intention and visualization. And I activated that mind-body pathway, and Dr. Dashore can validate, because we're such close friends. It was forever life-changing, and I feel I never could go back to the old Katina.
So it sounds like this actually sparked a really great transformation in your life at the end of it. Huge personal transformation. And I think of Lyme disease in many instances is like a pilgrimage quest. It's a deep seeking experience, and tending to the body is important, and using our resources from talented practitioners that understand the illness is essential. But you know what? There's so much work you can do personally with your own lifestyle, your self-care, and as I just was discussing, the powers we have that we were born with and how to tap into. So it's really amazing that you took a very, scientific homeopathic background. You were a practicing homeopath, and then really went on this spiritual journey yourself, and then have integrated that into your approach. Dr. Dashore, what do you find is part of your main methodology in approaching this? I know you also have a very strong clinical practice as well as a spiritual background yourself.
My approach is very similar to Katina's. That is why we gel so well with each other. But yes, I do have a medical background as well. So I do find that many people that I see in my practice are left brain. They want to integrate conventional medicine with holistic, and there is that's fine if that's what your body is telling you is going to work for you. I'm happy to guide them on that path. Now one thing that I see is most of the people, especially the children that come to my practice, are extremely brilliant. You can see the bright light in their eyes. You can see that they have a lot to contribute to society, and you can see that the being wanting to emerge from within. And I'm a trained spiritual counselor as well, and an energetic medicine practitioner. I'm board certified in energy medicine. And one interesting thing that I see is when I look at these people, especially the children, they are disembodied. They're all here.
Mm-hmm.
It's all the brain. Most of them have like big heads. It's the brain and it's the neck, and below the neck, it's almost as if my attention doesn't even go there. Of course I'll do a full neurological evaluation to see what's going on underneath, but they seem disembodied. They seem as if the spirit, the inner being, the mind is not reaching down below the head. And then it's not surprising when I explain to them that, you have to understand, these are kids who come to me and talk about, quantum physics and quantum math, and they talk about their spirits, and they talk, I actually have some who talk about reincarnation and past lives. And sometimes moms and dads are like, I don't know what to do with this kid. He's obviously brilliant. His or her teachers don't know what to do with the child. They actually teach their teachers like shortcuts on how to solve math problems and algebra, geometry, physics. So these are the kids. So I get to, I've had this immense good fortune of being able to speak with them one-on-one and being mentor to many. Now, what they do understand is that, the smarter you are, the more neurological connections you have. The more neurological connections in the brain you have, the more myelin you have, the myelin sheath, around your nerves. Now, it's very unfortunate, but most of the endo and exotoxins from Lyme, most of the biological and environmental toxins are neurotoxins. They are neurological toxins, and they are very attracted to the neurons, and especially the myelin sheath. So, the more you have, the bigger load of toxins you have. I mean, the more neuronal connections you have, the bigger load of toxins you have. And exposure to biotoxins causes, mold exposure. It's not just black mold. Keep in mind, research shows that it is 7 different kinds of molds, which can affect the people that have, especially the ones that already have underlying Lyme disease. So when I explain this, and when I give them hope that as we start peeling the layers of the onion one after another, and start trying to peel away the toxins, once the toxins come off, the brain can shine again. And I've had one little autistic child who was diagnosed as being on the spectrum at 7 years of age. I mean, hello, who gets diagnosed being on the spectrum at 7 years of age? And this was, I still remember little Jake. So we found tick-borne infections. We found, an extremely smart child underneath. And after 18 months, I'll never forget, I had Jake come to me for an appointment, and he says, he came up to me, he gave me a big hug, and he put his hands here, and he says, Dr. Dashore. I'm like, yes, Jake. And he says, I can make friends again. Mm-hmm. So he was really happy. He's like, I'm able to talk to people now. I don't have Asperger's anymore. And this was a child who had a dog tick attached on him when he was 4 years old, went to his pediatrician, and pediatrician said, Jake, it told Jake's mom that it's just a dog tick. It's nothing. And I've heard similar stories. It's really, I know, I see Katina rolling her eyes. Exactly. That was my reaction. So this child, for 3 years was allowed, Lyme disease was allowed to, continuously cause damage. You know what? I had been asked to share a few clinical pearls. I remember you asked me that yesterday, and if it's okay, I'd like to share those right now, just a couple of them, right? This is practical help for those attending the webinar today. I completely agree with Katina when she says, you can't really kill your way to health. You have to repair. You have to restore. I mean, as soon as people see their labs, oh my God, infections, kill. That is, no. You have to trust your body a little bit more. You have to prepare the terrain within for the enormous journey that is ahead. You have to activate your immune system. Just keep in mind, infections will never fully go into remission, is what I've seen in my clinical practice, or be eradicated, those that can be eradicated, until inflammation and damage is addressed. Keep in mind that upregulated immune system takes over. I mean, even above your brain, an upregulated immune system takes over, and neurological repair is only possible when we can quieten this immune system, when we can pull the toxins out, when we can start repairing the neurons. Now, last but not the least, I really believe in the Klinghardt paradigm. He's one of my teachers and mentors. Have had an absolute good fortune of being able to train with him. Is that for each, this is important, for each unresolved psycho-emotional conflict the body holds on to, and God knows we have many, with Lyme, the body holds on to 10 times the amount of bacterial, microbial, and environmental toxins. So that itself right there tells you that the mind, body, spirit approach is not only the best way, but often is critical. to those not responding to treatment. So these have been, have been my lessons. We've, after each, it was interesting with me, after each herxing, I would find myself being spiritually elevated. I would find that I was able to meditate better, especially after doing parasite cleanses. We've had the same happen with my son. He's been through tremendous bullying. I mean, he was in a wheelchair for 3 years. He lost weight. He was absolutely stick and bones. He was Asperger's, but he's completely recovered because it was Lyme-induced autism. And he's been through severe bullying at school. And once the children were counseled by the school counselor, Brian had an option. That's my son. He had an option of pursuing this further. And he just blew everybody's minds. We're sitting there with the superintendent of the school, with the counselors, with the children crying because boys at that age are just immature. In elementary school, even in middle school, there's just too much testosterone. The brain is not functioning well. So they just want to be macho. So what Brian said at that point was, everybody, I wouldn't want this bullying investigation to go on these children's permanent records. It's because they're immature. They don't really understand what I've been through. But my head shaking, my motor tics, my grimacing. It's not because I'm trying to tease them. I try to explain. It's like a hiccup. I can't help it. So it's just, please, let's not put it on their permanent record because they're immature. And I think they can learn to be kind. I'm sorry?
Boy, such a wise boy.
Thank you. Yes. So this has been an immense, spiritual journey for myself and for Brian as well. And I'm absolutely excited to meet Gurudev Sri Ravi Shankar in July. It would be such a privilege. I just can't wait. What they say. I mean, I really wasn't looking for this. It was a gift that Katina called me one day and she said, let's do this together. And spiritually, what they say, and my Indian background comes here, is that when the disciple is ready, the guru shall find you. So I think this is where, I mean, I'm going to tear up, but I think this is where my calling to art of living came forth. So Katina, I owe you a big one. You're amazing.
Jodie, it's a great honor. We are a beautiful synergetic pair. We bring so much healing to the people that join us at the conference. As you can tell from our conversations here with Andrew, both of us have enormous amount of years of practice. I've been in practice for 30 years, 15 in depth with Lyme disease. Dr. Dashore, same thing, long years. We've seen thousands of patients together, individually and together. The numbers are astronomical, and we know what healing embodies. And to be able to work together like this in collaboration, bring our knowledge, bring all these tools that we know succeed to this beautiful Art of Living Center, which all of you must go to the website, artoflivingretreatcenter.com, or is it yeah. Go see the facility. It's in the Blue Ridge Mountains. My understanding is it was one of the 5 epicenters of the world for the transcendental meditation movement, if I'm correct, Andrew. So the energy there is absolutely aligned to the highest consciousness and the greatest balance we could really ever find. And for those of you that are going to attend with us, you're going to get one-on-one time with Dr. Dashore and myself. We're going to be using experiential work together. We're going to do mind, body, spirit exercises. We're going to do kinesiology muscle testing. We're going to individually and in group settings, be able to start to initiate healing on the spot. And the configuration of Dr. Dashore and I together as very highly energetic, empowered, healing individuals. We are both blessed. We both looked death in the eye. We both returned to the land of light. We chose not to go to the other side. And I believe that people that have that experience of near death, when we come back, we are expanded in a certain way. Our level of consciousness is much more expansive. And I feel I was graced with a gift. And I know Dr. Dashore was too. I was graced with greater healing powers. So I've always been a healer since I was a little girl. I brought home the hurt bunnies and the stray cats. And at age 13, I was going to become an endocrinologist, went to Duke University, but ended up finding homeopathic medicine, which it has been a beautiful fit for me. All about treating the person, not the disease. Our symptoms and disease symptoms are clues, like a big jigsaw puzzle to me, of what your body is asking for. So here we are, our healing energy is going to be bathing everybody. We're going to be working together. We're going to be in an environment that's profoundly nurturing and healing. The spa facilities, the meditation access, the kirtan we're having on one night, the labyrinth to walk, the beauty of the serenity. I am so grateful. I know it's going to be healing for me. And I can't wait for all of you to join us. The rates are very affordable and the facility is beautiful. So it's going to be a very special weekend.
We do have a follow-up question. Andrew's asking if you could share a little about your treatment approach. I know, Dr. Dashore, you mentioned about looking at removing inflammation while also addressing the toxins, and then also accompanying that with the spiritual approach. And Katina, you also touched on the spiritual approach and the importance of the mind factor. If you could speak a little about kind of the treatment or clinical side, whether homeopathic or otherwise,
yes,
and how that fits in.
Yes.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so what I'm a homeopath, right? And we have over 4,000 remedies that come from nature. And I will be teaching a complete module on homeopathic medicine at the retreat. We're going to get a whole module on exactly what is homeopathic medicine. People mix it up sometime with herbal medicine or naturopathic medicine. It's an ancient healing art back in the 1700s. You'll often hear the expression likes treat likes with homeopathy. Vaccination shots and allergy shots were taken from the homeopathic principle, where we actually give a minute amount of a very diluted substance to introduce it. We introduce it sublingually into the body, right straight into the bloodstream. There are 4,000 remedies. So you can imagine the spectrum of help that we have at hand with these remedies. So I approach a case looking at what is the clinical picture. And like Dr. Dashore said, it's peeling the onion. So what are the most obvious symptoms and the most sort of limiting factors that an individual is struggling with? Is it crippling migraines and neck pain? Is it terrible digestive issues? Is it pericarditis? Is it, foot tremors and neuropathy? So I'll move in with my homeopathic remedies to address these symptoms, and we'll clear out that layer, right? And then I find what's lying underneath. Let's say we clear out the migraines and all that upper neck pain, but what's left now with this is profound fatigue. So now I'll work with my homeopathic remedies to help remove this whole state of collapse, this nervous system collapse, this adrenal collapse, this mitochondrial dysregulation. So I can use my homeopathic remedies to help really balance and calibrate the body from within, because we are always, the human body is always trying to return to homeostasis, which is balance. So we have these beautifully finely attuned homeopathic remedies. And we also have formulas that I mentioned for detoxification, for inflammation. So we have what we call combination formulas. And we'll learn more at the conference. We have some beautiful products from Germany, we have Czech Republic, we have American-based products. So the homeopathic piece is very intrinsic to my clinical work, as well as looking at some of the pieces that Dr. Dashore said. We have to bring down inflammation. And the root of it usually is a flaw with our little adrenal glands. A lot of you remember the adrenals from biology class. They sit on top of the kidney, right? Little small glands, they're part of the endocrine system, but they're so essential to our daily life. Everyone thinks of them as making adrenaline for fight or flight, that near car accident or the saber-toothed tiger attack of ancient times, but the adrenals were only meant to make tiny little amounts of adrenaline for emergencies. But imagine now you've got a rampant infection in your bloodstream that's auguring its way, right, into tissues. It's finding its way onto glands. It's covering the pericardium of the heart. And as Dr. Dashore said, it's going straight for the myelin sheath. And so we've got this rampant infection on the inside that's almost like poison ivy on the inside. And the little adrenal glands naturally will make corticosteroids to try to arrest inflammation. But how long can the gland do that with a rampant infection before it starts to fatigue? So we get into a state of adrenal fatigue or adrenal collapse where we're bedridden. And then the adrenal glands, because they're part of the endocrine system, which I think of as an orchestra, right? We've got the pituitary and the thymus and the thyroid and the pineal gland and the reproductive glands. And hey, it's like an orchestra, like the woodwinds must come in at the proper time and the strings. So if here the adrenal glands are so exhausted and they can't make proper levels of steroids and cortisol and other hormones, well then the pituitary and the thymus and the thyroid, they're not getting the proper clues either. So we get this complete endocrine disarray, which we'll get much more into, this hypothalamus pituitary adrenal axis. So I work very strongly on rebuilding and nourishing, both with the homeopathics and with good supplements. We have fantastic nutraceuticals nowadays. We're so blessed. We have the ancient Chinese formulas, the ancient Ayurvedic formulas, but we also have some fabulous nutraceuticals in today's world. So I feel like we're really at a cusp. I think Dr. Dashore will agree with me. Coming from India and Europe with her upbringing, she had the good fortune of these modalities being part of her daily world. In the United States, since the 1930s, these disciplines got pushed into the background, and we became a country of pharmaceutical pills and procedures, which work for a lot of important things like stroke and broken bones. But here we are with chronic illness, and we need to blend, we need to integrate in. So, I believe strongly that the homeopathics, the nutraceuticals, and I can use my homeopathics. This is special. We'll talk about this in the conference. We actually can have Borrelia and Bartonella and Ehrlichia and Babesia in homeopathic dilution. And imagine this now. Taking a homeopathic dilution of Borrelia will stimulate the body on the inside to make the antibodies to fight the infection from within. You're not having to come in with these aggressive antibiotics that are going to do a lot of damage and make you dependent. But we can actually use our homeopathic nosodes to teach the body how to calibrate and address the organism from within. So here we've got a huge treasure trove of tools to share with all of you. It's going to be 5 days of incredible incredible tools you can go home with. I should say, Andrew, is it appropriate to say that I'm going to offer my newest book, my autoimmune illness and Lyme disease recovery guide, Mending Body, Mind, and Spirit, to all the people that sign up for our webinar, for our conference, right, that are listening today on the webinar. All of these people that are going to sign up by 6 o'clock this evening are going to be able to get a free copy of my book as part of the program of attendance. So we've got so much to offer, and I hope I answered the question, but clinically, I work at that level, and we bring in the energy medicine too, like Dr. Dashore said.
That's great. That's great. Thank you for sharing, Katina. So as a reminder, for all our webinar attendees, we do have a special offer. If you do decide this program is for you and register today by 6, you do get a free copy of Katina's book. I think with a signature, right, Katina, from the author?
Definitely. And a photo with us when you're there.
Yeah, photos as well. Yeah. Dr. Dashore, anything you wanted to add as we wrap up?
How much time do we have?
We have about 5 minutes, and then we'll wrap up. We'll wrap up.
Okay. I saw Angie's question, on the side here, and I wanted to, kind of jump in and share what I do in my practice, just to make it a little bit of more informative. What I do is I collaborate with the referring MDs for, the first thing that happens is when they come in is a full clinical evaluation, right? As my background training is as a neurologist. So we do a full neurological evaluation. For the children, I'm also sensory integration certified, so we do a sensory evaluation as well. And then we look at, based on the clinical symptoms, that's the most important piece. Is the clinical symptoms, like Katina said, with the headaches, with the migraines, with the neurological problems, with brain fog, with aches and pains, with gut issues. What I find is that these are multi-symptom, but also multi-system illnesses. So yes, we do have to look at the neurological system. We look at the endocrine, we look at the infections, we look at the gut, we look at the liver, we look at the detoxification pathways. So I usually come up with a list of labs that have to be run, because most people the people that I see in my practice like to quantify what's going on, like how much is my liver affected, how much, what's going on with my kidneys, and it also gives me an overall information as to, how much inflammation, how much infection, how much physiological and biochemical damage am I dealing with. So once the labs come back, we interpret them. And in the meantime, I immediately start people on repair and restore. We look at the gut, we look at the terrain, we start with supplements, with probiotics, with herbs. And once the labs come back, they're not all blood labs, and it's not all blood work. There's saliva, there's urine, for neurotransmitters. There's wonderful labs nowadays for tick-borne infections that are based on urine PCR analysis. It really helps with children, especially children on the spectrum. So when the labs come back, we actually know what infections are going on. Some patients request autonomic response testing, which is kinesiology and muscle testing. We do that as well. And based on a person's individual zoo or microbiome within, I come up with herbal protocols. And even with herbals, when one starts with glycerides, which are slightly milder, and then when I like to progress on to the tinctures. And Stephen Buhner is a friend, a mentor, and a guide. And I've learned so much as far as American herbalism goes. Ayurvedic background I do have. And that is some of the herbals we use for detoxification, drainage support. I like to use homeopathic and homotoxicology remedies for supporting the gut. There's, like Katina said, there's so many fantastic products available now as the awareness has increased for repairing and restoring. So it's a very clinical approach. It's completely natural, but it's very scientific based. It's clinically done step by step. For mold and biotoxin illness, I'm currently involved in two research studies that are looking at natural alternatives because there are many patients exposed to mold and biotoxins that are not able to tolerate the conventional protocol. So we are looking at that, and I'm seeing very promising results, with natural approaches for mold and biotoxin as well. So it is a very comprehensive approach because it is a very complex diagnosis. So it is, and most importantly, Katina, we know that it is very scientific based.
It is.
So
it is. And it's like I said back, we are an ecosystem. And here we have, blessedly, we have some of these laboratories now that are not the traditional laboratories that a traditional endocrinologist or neurologist or MD would use. These are specialty labs that are state-of-the-art, Galaxy Labs and Real-Time Labs and Genova Labs. We have some beautiful sponsors for the program, by the way, that we really have to thank for helping us with some scholarships and who we use in our practices. And so, I have to say, amidst the dark times, I mean, this has been a very, very dark time in our society. This has been 40 plus years of rampant infectious illness. If you look back historically over the ages, we see about every 35, 40 years, a massive infectious illness sweep a population. And hundreds of thousands and millions of people are infected, often they die. If we look backwards in times, we see AIDS in the 80s, we see polio before that, we see diphtheria, we see tuberculosis, we see yellow fever, we see malaria, we see these massive epidemics. And if you think about it and look at it historically, at first medical science is confused, but then they rally, right? And they study the infection, they rally, and they figure something out. Whether it's a treatment, whether it's a vaccine, they figure it out. Lyme disease got neglected. If you think about it, it's surfaced in this modern form, which is the very aggressive strains that we're seeing right now. We know the organism has been around for thousands of years. Remember, it was found in that caveman archaeological find millions of years ago.
Yeah, the Iceman.
Yeah, and the Native Americans, they called it deer fever, and they treated it with teasel root and sweat lodges. It was a milder form of the bacteria. We've got a very aggressive strains right now. So this is unfortunate, but this aversion surfaced just as the AIDS epidemic was peaking, right? Back in the early 80s. And it was a tragedy when AIDS was killing people right and left. And of course, medical science put a lot of money and time into AIDS, and they've done a fantastic job. They figured a lot out, and people can live quality lives with HIV. But Lyme slipped between the cracks. It slipped between the cracks. They just thought it was a short-term infectious illness, 2 weeks of antibiotics, end of story. And here we are now 40 years later, and those of us that are working at the clinical level and the cutting edge doctors that are associated with the ILADS community and those overseas are realizing, wait a second, this is like syphilis. This is a very complex condition. So I say this is the infectious illness of our era, and it asks us to unite the two hands of healthcare. It asks us to take the diagnostics and the pharmaceutical tools of Western medicine and marry it with the restorative therapeutics of natural medicine, because two hands working together are better than one. So you're going to get the best of both worlds with us at the Art of Living retreat with Dr. Dashore and myself. So we really do hope you join us. It's going to be a wonderful, educational, expansive, healing opportunity. Your lives are going to be transformed.
Thank you both so much for joining us today. We really value the resource and wisdom and knowledge that you bring to the table about this thing that's not properly understood still. I appreciate the time.
Thank you, Andrew. Both of us, as you can tell, are very passionate about this.
Yes.
We have walked the Lyme road ourselves. Our dear, beautiful sons have been afflicted. Mine's fully recovered, blessedly. And we both have worked with thousands of individuals. We want to bring you hope. You can recover from this disease. There's a lot of great healing work that can be done. Both of us cannot sit on the sidelines. When we have witnessed the degree of suffering and we have personally been touched by it, my life got changed. I have to follow the calling, and the calling is to address the suffering and to bring hope and healing and inspiration to those in need. So thank you for having us, Andrew, and thank you, Dr. Dashore, for collaborating with me. I appreciate you so much. You are such a gift to the world. She's such a talented woman, awarded international neurologist of the world by the International Neurology and Natural Medicine Society. You are going to be absolutely blessed with the gifts of this very talented doctor. So thank you, Dr. Dashore.
Thank you both.
Katina, thank you. It's an honor. Hey, Andrew, one sec. Katina.
Yeah.
We discussed about a financial discount or something yesterday. Would you like to offer that?
Yes, Andrew. Andrew.
Yeah, right?
Good. Yes, Dr. Dashore is right. For those of you that will sign up and register by 6 o'clock tonight at artoflivingretreatcenter.org, is that correct, Andrew?
Yeah.
Come and please register for our Lyme disease retreat. Dr. Dashore, and I are going to give you a discount. We're going to take $50 off the tuition because we want you to join us, and we want to make it a little bit more affordable for you. So please take advantage and sign up by 6 o'clock tonight. Andrew can help clarify details on that.
Sure. So thank you both. Thank you everyone for joining us. We'll also send out a follow-up email reminder about the special discount they're both generously offering, as well as the free book. And we'll also send out a link where you can watch this webinar later on or share it with your friends. And
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for your time with us today.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Dr. Dashore. I'm so excited. We'll
Thank you, Katina.
all be together May 10th to 14th, Blue Ridge Mountains, Boone, North Carolina. Visit both of our websites. Mine is KatinaMakris.com. Jodie, yours is?
Mine is DashoreIntegrativeRx.com. It'll be amazing to see you guys there. We hope to see you there, and really look forward to seeing you. Katina, you too.
Thank you, everyone. Take care now.
Take care. Bye.
Bye-bye.